Well, let's look at attendance. It's a midweek game, G8 competition, a match between Kotoko and House of Folk. What can you tell us about attendance?
Well, the line is not very clear, but if I get you, you are welcome to the Kumasi Baba Sports Stadium, where Kumasi Asante Kotoko and House of Folk are playing the first semi-final of the Gulf G8 competition sponsored by TCL. And it's a weekday game, and you would have expected that for Kumasi Asante Kotoko, you would have the numbers by now filling the stadium, but it's not impressive as you would expect comparatively to most Asante Kotoko games. Generally, attendance is improving and better than what we've seen in the past games in this G6. But I think it's a weekday, and you'd expect workers to come right after work, or from 3:30, you'd expect a lot of people to come in. But generally, I think it's impressive from the past 4 games that we've witnessed.
Okay, give me a picture from the scoreboard to the center line and also to the Amekum end. How is it like? Half full, quarter full, or what?
Well, from the scoreboard, I think it's very appalling. You'd expect us to put fans to at least be in full force at the scoreboard with almost 3 of the lanes filled. But it's an eyesore here. Very few people you can collect at the end, that is the scoreboard. For the center line, it's a bit impressive. Ordinarily, you'd expect that space to be very vacant, but this time around, it's almost about one quarter full. And for Amekom, as usual, it's gradually picking up and much more impressive than all the other 2. That is the center line. The VIP has been impressive, though. I went up the upper terrace. The lower terrace is gradually filling up too, but I think it's okay for the VIP. Just for the other stands, hopefully it will be filled later.
All right, now let's talk about the lineup of the 2 teams. Does it look like the 2 teams are taking this game very, very serious?
Hello?
Yeah, Calvin, let's look at the lineup of the 2 teams.
Hello?
Let's look at the lineup of the 2 teams.
All right, let us roll through the lineup of the 2 teams. And for Kumasi Asante Kotoko, just to say, from the last game they played against Diana Stars, they are playing home, and you have Wahab Adams coming in for Emmanuel Owusu, the new defender who joined Asante Kotoko this season. In post for the his position. Eric Donko at left back, the captain for today. Augustin Sefa, Audu Nafiu, Wahab Adams complete the back 4. In midfield, we have the trio of Jackson Owusu, Selave Mohammed, and Jordan Opoku. And up front, we have Kwame Boahin operating from the left side, Emmanuel James from the right, and Frederick Wate, the newly signed striker from Inter Ally, also leading their attack. For our support, they have Ben Mensah in post, Inuka Musa, the captain of the team, Christopher Bondi, former player of Asante Kotoko, but was secured from Ebusian Draft, Richard Akofi, and Robert Abdo completing the back 4. In midfield, they have Alassane Aminu, Francis Morton, Samudin Ibrahim, Daniel Kodia in midfield, and Reginald Thompson will support Cosmos Dauda up front. Also, folk have Malik Akowa, Nasiru Bakari, Patrick Razak, Isaac Mensah, Alex Kwasi, Raji Obuka, and goalkeeper Theophilus Jackson to fall on when they need any substitutes. Asante Kotoko have Janlad Ibrahim, Frank Edgareva from Nigeria, Baba Mahama, Edwin Frimpong to 4, Akwatinki, Van Trapogenfi, and Emmanuel Owusu.
And who are the officials for the afternoon's match?
Well, yes, I do. And for the central referee, Maxwell Hansen will be the man in the helm of affairs. Freeman Awulu from Kumasi will be the assistant line 1. Stephas Balo from Obuate will be the assistant line 2. And for the 4th official, Whiteman Gansa from Tema will be the man to help with duties at touchline. Well, I have, it's a bit impressive because you look at the House of Folk fans, they're in full force, but Asante Kotoko are still timid. You can see that euphoria you'd expect from the Amekom fans, but the teams are yet to be acted on the pitch. Hopefully, when they come, you would have the supporters cheering them on.
Okay.
And I have here with me Obed Ekampong, the communications director for Kumasi Asante Kotoko. He's here with me. Obed, good afternoon and welcome to Love FM. How do you see the game? This is about the second time you are meeting Accra to Folk in 4 weeks.
Just like we've been saying from the beginning of this tournament, it's a pre-season tournament where we are using it to shape up the team for the CAF Confederations Cup, the League and the FA Cup. So perform themselves. And we are not so much interested in the results. We are looking beyond the results, the fitness, the rhythm of play, the standard of play, and so many factors.
Well, you said you are not so much interested in the results, but there lies the case. The fans were not so happy when you nearly fell out before you won your final game against the Ghana Stars. This is the biggest rivalry in Ghana, and this is your business rival. Will you be okay losing the game to them? Don't you think that your fans will be very, very vociferous with anger, bombarding all insults and then insinuations at you if you lose the game to Asofo?
We are not looking at losing. The fact that we are treating it as a preseason doesn't mean we're going to play it. So we're going to come in all calculating with everything that we have in us. But we're going to be cautious. That is what we want to put across. Treating it as a preseason game doesn't mean we're just going to allow ourselves to just walk over us. I mean, there's Baba asked us to them. We're playing in front of our own fans. But the message we want to put across that we're going to be cautious.
All right. Hello, Calvin.
Yeah, hello, Dala.
All right, Calvin. Let me say a big thank you to you. I'll be joining you very soon. But what time is kickoff?
Well, kickoff was supposed to be 3, but I think some delay in the tunnel. So in a matter of about 3 minutes, the game will begin. All
right. Thank you very much, Calvin. And you take good care of yourself at the stadium.
Thank you, and we're waiting for you.
Okay, so that was Kelvin Owusu-Ansah, who is with us here at Love 99.5 FM. He is coming to you live from the Barbara Sports Stadium, where Kumasi Asante Kotoko are playing against Accra Hearts of Oak in a G8 semi-final game here at the Barbara Sports Stadium. Well, let's do some other stories. And the Minister for Youth and Sports, Honorable Isaac Asiama, could be breathing a sigh of relief after His Excellency President Akufo-Addo announced he's pleased with the work that Tremaine Ponua MP has done so far. Honorable Isaac Asiama was appointed about a year ago to the ministry that has long been seen as a slippery ground where ministers have not lasted for more than a year in previous government. With media reports hinting of an imminent government reshuffle, the fate of many ministers is hanging in the balance. But in answering a question at the second Meet the Press series since he took office on January 7, 2017, and Nana Akufo-Addo says the sports minister has lived up to expectation.
The output of the sports minister is so far so good as far as I'm concerned. If your view is for the time being on his retention in office, is my view that matters.
All right, so that was His Excellency Nana Akufo-Addo there for you now. Meanwhile, answering a question on the perception of corruption at the Ghana Football Association, the president says his government will not meddle in the affairs of the FA since FIFA frowns on the executive interference in football.
As far as mismanagement within the Football Association is concerned, my understanding is that the Football Association, by FIFA rules, by all the rules, is supposed to be an independent organization, and that those who are involved in football administration in the country will deal with issues of mismanagement. If mismanagement there is, I don't believe it's in an area where the government should intervene to sort things out if things need to be sorted out. Those in the industry, those in the sector, those in football are the ones who are meant to deal with football issues. And my understanding is that is a basic rule that FIFA is very, very, very insistent on, that there should be no executive interference in the administration of football anywhere.
All right, and finally, on the white paper report from the Jamepe Commission of Inquiry on the 2017 Brazil World Cup fiasco, this is what the President of the Republic had to say.
Am I interested in the 2014 white paper? I think that on these matters, truth is usually the best answer. To be honest, I've forgotten about the 2014 white paper. But I have no doubt that my Minister of Sports is fully up to it and will advise in due course what should be the reaction of me and the government to it. But it has not been something that has been very much on my radar, the 2014 white paper on sports.
All right, so that was the President of the Republic, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Let's do some other stories. And Spanish-born Ghanaian descent, Inaki Williams, has signed a bumper 7.5-year contract extension at La Liga side Atletico Bilbao. Williams was previously linked with a switch to Liverpool, but has committed its long-term future to the Basque club, where he is now tied until 2025. The 23-year-old's new contract includes a release clause of 80 million euros that will progressively rise until it reaches 108 million euros, figures which exceed the fee required to take star centre-back Aymeric Laporte away from Atletico. Now, an offline session or a mock-up of the video assistant referee technology will be conducted in Casablanca during the Group A Day 2 matches of the Total African Nations Championship CHAN in Morocco 2018. It will be tested in both games, Morocco, Guinea, and Sudan, Mauritania. The mock-up is a requirement of the International Football Association body towards giving the green light for the experimentation of the technology here in Africa. CAF intends to experiment VAR from the knockout stages of the tournament, designed exclusively for footballers playing in the domestic leagues. In respect of that, a two-man delegation from FIFA has since arrived in Casablanca to provide assistance, support, and supervision for the online sessions. Now, the duo consists of Michael Bosler, FIFA referee manager, and Carlos Valesco Caballo, who is the FIFA instructor and in charge of the VR project for the FIFA Russia World Cup 2018. Now let's turn attention to some international stories, and we start with tennis, where third seed Grigor Dimitrov was pushed to the limit before scrapping past American qualifier Mackenzie McDonald in the Australian Open second round. The Bulgarian, whose form has made him one of the favourites for the title, eventually came through 4-6, 6-2, 6-4, 0-6, 8-6 after 3 hours and 25 minutes. Dimitrov struggled from the start as the number 186 in the world. McDonald played the match of his career. Now, also a top seed Rafa Nadal earlier progressed to the last 32 with a straight set victory over Argentina's Leonard Meyer. The Spaniard beat the world number 52 Meyer 6-3, 6-4, 7-6 to reach the last 32. Now, meanwhile, former British number 1 Greg Rosetsky has given his predictions ahead of the of who he thinks could be the winner of both the women and the men at the Australian Open 2018.
The favorite for the men's tournament for me has to be Roger Federer. I mean, he's the guy who's been in great shape, played well in the Hopman Cup, is moving well. The courts seem to be quick, even though his draw section is quite difficult. Djokovic, on the other hand, it's a little bit too soon for him. He's kind of abbreviated his serve. He hasn't had enough reps in his game, and he's got probably Monfils in the second round, who I think is probably going to upset Novak and knock him out in the second round. So you're probably looking at Rafa, Roger possibly being in the finals, and the other guys to look out for are Kyrgios, the Australian, who won in Brisbane. You're obviously looking at Grigor Dimitrov and Alexander Zverev, who's, you know, the big superstar at the moment, who's broke through from that younger generation. Halep, who's the #1 player in the world, hasn't won a major. She'd like to win her first major, and you know, this would be a great opportunity for her. Muguruza, the Wimbledon champion, she always plays well when it's a big event, and you know, obviously Joe Conte I'd put on that list as the 3 people I'd be watching out to probably win the title on the women's side. And without Serena there, you know, it just gives all the other players a great opportunity to
Now, elsewhere, North and South Korea have agreed to march together under a single unified Korea flag at next month's Winter Olympics in the South. They also agreed to field a joint women's ice hockey team after rare talks at the Trues village in Panmunjom. These are the first high-level talks between the two Koreas in more than 2 years. The games will take place between the 9th and the 27th of February in Pyeongchang in South Korea. If the plans are realized, over 100-strong North Korean delegation, including 230 cheerleaders, 140 orchestra musicians, and 30 taekwondo athletes, could cross over to the south via the land border to attend, and that is really going to be a landmark. And it's good to hear that the two Koreas are going to use a unified flag for this year's summer Winter Olympics. And finally, Jose Mourinho arrived in Manchester United's training ground on Wednesday morning as he closes in on adding Alexis Sanchez to his squad. Mourinho was driven into the club's AON training complex as negotiations continue with Arsenal over the £350 million rated one-wage Chilean Alexis Sanchez. And so that'll be it for sports. And later on Drive Talk, but let me just remind you that we'll be bringing you updates from the Kumasi Asante Kotoko House of Folk match at the Baba Era Sports Stadium on Drive Time, and so keep your dials locked here. Now on Drive Talk, What is on board today? It says that in recent years, my husband has developed a habit of speaking awful and hurtful words to me whenever we disagree. He calls me unprintable names or puts across demeaning statements. He also becomes defensive even when he's wrong and never apologizes for anything. After our fight, he expects us to carry on as if nothing happened. Is there something wrong with him, or I am rather expecting too much from him? Please advise me on how I handle him, as I always feel he takes me for granted and does not care anymore. I think that, honestly, for men who do that, I think that they don't respect themselves. If you respect your wife, you know the sort of words that should come to you out of your mouth when you're speaking to, your wife. Let's not. I don't know to what extent the girl might have gone, but some words are unprintable. You should not in any
a man
insult
a woman,
especially your partner or your wife. No, at all.
Not even as a joke.
It is not done. And so if you do that as a man, you disgrace yourself. I think that you are beyond that. And so if you're a man out there who does so and listening to me, please put a stop to it, because it doesn't speak well of you. Masa,
you can join in the conversation on any of our social media platforms as we hit the road with the city's biggest late afternoon show, Drive Time on Love.
Back up your files in the office, turn off the computers, and